Lesson 30, Algebraic Phrases. Really fun lesson. We're going to learn how to translate from English to math. Now remember, math is a language. So just like you can translate from English to Spanish or Spanish to English, you can also do it to math. And for that, we're going to use common symbols that we already know. So let's look at some of these phrases and get used to them. Get very familiar to them so that as we use them in different exercises, you use the same thing always, okay? So for the first one, a number, we can use n for a number, and we can use it in capital or in lowercase. We could also use x, just a very common letter or variable that we use for word problems. Now, the opposite of a number is asking us for the opposite sign. So we don't know if the number is positive or negative, but if I put a negative in front, that changes whatever the sign of the original number is. The next one says the sum of a number and 3. So I'm going to start by writing the plus. That tells me that there is a sum, an addition. Now, what are we adding? We're adding a number and 3. So I put a number and 3. N plus 3, x plus 3, whichever way you prefer, it's okay as long as you're adding a variable and a 3. The next one is the product. Now the product is multiplication. So when it says the product of a number and 7, it's going to be the number and 7. Now notice that looks really ugly, right? If I put the 7 there, it looks weird. So whenever we read that, we are always going to write the number first and then the letter. This is the way we want to see it. Then we have words like these, more than or increase by. That is just a number increased by something. So if, for example, it says 15 more than a number, we would put n plus 15. Or a number increased by 15, n plus 15. And the same goes with less than and decreased by. Now, we are subtracting whatever number it is. So it says, if it says 15 less than a number, I have to put first a number and then subtract 15. Or if it says a number decreased by 15, n minus 15. Now, if you put 15 minus n, that would be wrong. You have to be very careful. It's always minus the number. So when you see this less than, you should have like a red flag, and I'm going to put here in red. This, you need to be very careful, because less than, you have to write it first the letter and then the number. The number is what we're subtracting. And then finally, twice a number. Now this word twice is 2 times. So twice a number is 2n. So that's it with the algebraic phrases for now. We will use them later in just a few more lessons to translate a word problem, create an equation, and then solve it. But for now, it's just a phrase. It's just memorizing and getting familiar with these words so that you can easily translate them into math. Let's go to the next section. In this one is also a review on the decimal formula. Remember that we've worked with this kind of formula with percents and fractions, but now we're also going to work with decimal. The decimal of a total, remember this is of, decimal of a total is or equals a part. So let's look at these examples and try to write an equation with the information given. So let's see, it says 15 hundredths, so I'll write that, of multiplication. What number, that's the question, so I'll put an n, is equals 75 hundredths. Now notice that this has the same structure as this. We know that if we pass that 15 hundredths that is multiplying, if we pass it to divide, then that's going to give me the total, which is n. So if I divide these two numbers, I would have to put the 75 on the inside and 15 on the outside. Remember, I multiplied by 100 both because I don't want to have any decimals on the denominator. And when I divide that, the answer is going to be 5. So n equals 5. Let's look at the next example. In here, we're going to do the same translate. So the question in this case is what decimal? And I'm going to use a D so that I remember that my answer has to be a decimal. So what decimal of multiplication 52 is equals 156 and 52 hundredths. Again, the 52 is multiplying, so to find the decimal, I have to pass it to divide. When I divide these on the side, I have to put the 52 on the outside because it's the one dividing, and I get 3. Now this is going to be 0. Now I bring down the decimal, and the 5 I bring down. I can't divide 5 by 52, so that's a 0. I bring down the other 2, and that's 52 divided by 52 is 1. So our decimal is going to be 3 and 100ths. The next example is very similar. So it is 33 hundredths of multiplication 72 is what number? Now notice that in this case, I don't have to pass 1 to the other side. They are already here on the same side. And what are they doing to each other? They're multiplying. When I multiply that, I get that number. But remember that we have 2 decimals. So I need to put in my answer to add the decimal in the second place. And so, because I start here and I move 2 times. So my answer is going to be 23 and 76 hundredths. And that would be N. And that's it. Very simple. Just translate carefully. Okay, have fun, and I'll see you in the next lesson.